You welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show, right? Look, we're getting ready to get into part 2 of the Moors before Spain. I just want to set it up in context for you all. This is when the Germanic tribes, such as the barbarians or the Huns or the Goths, Visigoths, when they had was ruling Spain at the time, and the Moors came and took Spain back, and then they ruled Spain all the way up until 1492, right? But the accomplishments and the knowledge and the architectural skills of the Moors is what made Spain. But as the Moors started to sleep and have children with the Germanic tribal women, right, that was the beginning of their downfall. Because the offsprings of the Moors in time helped to fight with or alongside of with the Germanic tribes to help defeat their forefathers, right? But this was all prophesized. Let's say that. So let's say it like that. It was going to happen anyway. To get to the point to where we are today, to complete the 6,000-year rule that was given to the Caucasian to rule, but that rule ended in 1914, gave him 100 more years to atone, repent for the evils that was done, and a message and a warning was still in the midst to give that out of repentance. And if you noticed, after 2014, more calamities, as Minister Farrakhan said would happen. More calamities, more destructions. Now we're dealing with COVID, Trump in the office, no repentance, and God's just unleashing. He's unleashing. So, but we want to get into part 2, Moors before Spain, because we're giving you all a timeline into history, right? Now, this is from Zev bin Shimon Halevi, which is Zeb, son of Shimon Halevi, right? The 3 cultures of Spain, right? We want to get a little bit more into that, because I said I would do part 2, so we're going to do part 2. Under the Moors, Spain became a beacon of civilization in a benighted Europe. Trade with the Middle East was established, right? Trade with the Middle East from Spain or Europe was established by the Moors, right? I just want y'all to keep that in mind. Trade with the Middle East was established, and the economy developed by large influx of Muslims and Jewish settlers, right? Because once Spain was conquered by the Moors, then the Muslims and the Jews, they're coming there, settling there, because one thing they know, okay, now once this area is up under Muslim control, Moors control, then there's going to be peace, there's going to be trade, there's going to be science, there's going to be music, dance, architecture. It's on, you know what I mean? As we say, it's on and popping now. So everybody, they flying to Spain. Spain was the place, right? Look, high culture blossom, high culture. the all to be all, the who's who. We would look at Spain when the Moors had it as what you look at as a Dubai or California or New York or something to that effect, right? High culture blossomed. This was because the Islamic rulers wished their court of the Western Caliphate to be brilliant. They wouldn't accept anything else but brilliancy in every endeavor in which they had their hands in. If not better than that of the East, centered in Baghdad, meaning they was going to rival Spain with Baghdad. Because at the time, Baghdad was thriving. So it's like, okay, Baghdad would be a major city thriving, so we're going to go establish another one to be thriving. Now you got two cities thriving under Islamic Moorish rule, right? This policy attracted a pursuit of excellence in every field, from agriculture to the intelligence or intelligentsia. The prime example of this was the city of Cordova, which became the country's capital. A huge population was served by many public amenities, such as public baths, street lights, a university, and great library, right? This is what the Moors brought, right? Because you got to think, because it was dirt roads. There was no street lights, and when the Germanic tribes had took over that part of Europe, the Moors brought public baths. You take a bath because you already read the story where the queen wasn't bathing. They wasn't taking baths. That was new. The Moors brought bathing. The queen was talking about she took a bath once a year and was bragging on it. And she was supposed to have been the clean queen. So just imagine, but the more, because you got to remember, they was just coming up out of the caves. They wasn't, nobody, how you going to know the importance of soap and bathing if no one taught you that? Somebody had to have enough within them to see something in you to say, hey, use this soap, babe. This is what it's about. This is how you cook your foods. This is how you live amongst civilized society, right? Somebody had to show that. And the Moors did that for Europe, right? Okay. So it says a huge population was served by many public amenities such as public baths, street lights, a university. The Moors even set up a university for them. Knowledge. Black people given to society, to humanity as a whole. The Moors, go look up the Moors. Okay, a university and great libraries. Its markets sold goods from all over the known world, while its magnificent houses, gardens, and palaces were lived in by a wealthy, cultivated elite. Even the poor were well off relative to the crude life of most of the Christendom. Meaning even the poor was living better than the Christians, but not basically for material reasons. No, it was the knowledge and the spiritual belief systems that freed the mind to endure and want to pursue thought and high levels of knowledge. Under the Christian dome, it was more, I got the power and I'll issue out what I feel you should deserve, but I'll never see you as my equal. Under the Moorish rule, it was, hey, you can do it too. Get this knowledge. Build yourself up with wisdom. The books are open. Read these books. Learn better yourself. Because the Creator provided all of this for us. There was different frames of thought. Let's put it like that. Besides the high level of craftsmanship and the liberal arts was the study of philosophy. Here the Arabs and the Jews shared the same almost obsession to relate Hellenic reasons to their respective scriptures. The discovery of Aristotle's method of logic, the intellectual contemplation of Plato, and later pagan thinkers excited the quick Semitic minds of Arabs and Jews to bring the two truths of reason and revelation together so as to prove their mutual veracity became a major occupation. Needless to say, some of the more conservative religious people were hostile to any analyst of the Quran or Bible, but they were initially ignored until the drift away from the acceptance of pure faith became critical. Now, when you hear Arabs, you got to do talking about the Moors as well, because you had a lot of black Arabs. You know, we got to add that in because Black Lives Matter, and plus the world needs to know the contributions that melanated people gave all over this globe, all over the planet. Many Christians from Western Europe came to study in Spain when they heard what intellectual activity was going on there, right? So they traveling Europe. They want to get some of this knowledge too, because they understood that knowledge was power, and you can build with this knowledge, right? Holy Toledo in particular became an important century of meeting of the three faiths, where scholars and mystics could freely discuss the new learning, as it was called. Scholars and mystics. Okay. It was here that the West Renaissance began in the early Middle Ages, as ancient and contemporary works were translated from the Arabic, usually by Jews, into Latin and other Western languages. So the Jews knew Arabic and Aramaic too, as well as Hebrew, and they would translate this knowledge or these scripts or these writings, right, into Latin, Latin came later, and other Western languages, right? What point I wanted to make? Okay, well, they translated, Aristotle, Plato, and you can't forget Plotinus. See, they want to leave Plotinus out because the true identity of Plotinus, they don't want you to know he was a brother. He was heavy. Plotinus traveled. That's Plotinus. Look him up. Alongside the interaction between the Spanish and foreign intelligentsia was the Moorish influence upon Europe's attitudes and customs. In Arab poetry, women were treated with great gentility and put on a pedestal. Now, because when you go look at those old pictures of the Egyptian goddesses, and whether you're going back to Nubia, you're going to Kush, the black woman was always seen as a goddess or the second nature of man, the feminine principle aspect of the universe or society. So she was always highly respected. But if you come from a society where they demean women, such as coming up out the caves or not allowing women the right to vote or how women were treated, their women looked upon how the Moors was treating black women and was upset. Right? They wanted to be what they saw. They wanted that respect, even till this day. That's why when you hear black men talk about the feminist movement, it's not that black men is dissing the feminist movement. They just telling black women, hey, we always put you all out front. Look at how the mother is treated in the house. The black woman in the house basically was ruling everything. You know, black men didn't have a problem with black women voting or getting the job or how much money they made, because we always saw it as a collective unit. But when black women took on white women's position, stance against what the white man was doing to the white women, black women got involved and tried to say, well, we're fighting against oppression from all men. And black men was like, wait, hold on. When have we oppressed too? We trying to make it as well as you are. What are you talking about? So that's where the confusion came with that, right? And that's where it started. Okay. Romantic love and courtly behavior enhanced a Moorish warrior's image. This code of chivalry became the model for the ideal Christian knight through the songs of the troubadours who wandered about the courts of Europe. Okay, see, Moors teaching Christians how to respect. They teaching chivalry. And when after 1492, the goal was to reverse everything. We're going to have the black man take the place of how the Germanic European tribes was acting. And then the Germanic European tribes were going to role reverse and play the role of the Moor and become the chivalrous one, and then make the Moor become the unlearned barbaric. Right? You know, we traded places, as Eddie Murphy say. As Mary Cush was so elegantly put, how after the Moors was defeated, the Germanic tribes stripped the Moors of the jewelry, their clothes, and they put it on and paraded up and down the streets in Moorish attire because the Moors was always clean. So at that point, trading places, roles were being switched, i.e. reversed. The game of chess and good table manners, as well as improvements in cooking and other domestic practices, entered Europe through Spain. Because they were taking those traditions. I mean, if you go back and you see some of these shows, right? What was going on back in the UK and Britain and the deep West European countries, when they would send their prince, king, or if you had money, they'd send them to Europe to learn, and then they would come back to their respective areas, whether it's France or Spain, not France or Britain, UK, Germany, and they come back with spices and different knowledges and books, and then they would share that with the king, and only the nobles and the elites would get that knowledge. The peasants and the laymen still wouldn't get nothing, which they was upset, saying, hey, how y'all enjoying all these fine things and we sitting down here with nothing? When they learned how the Moors was treating their poor, they were like, we want some of that as well. Okay, let's go. The game of chess and good table manners, as well as improvements in cooking and other domestic practices, entered Europe through Spain. However, the greatest export was a completely new way at looking at the world, as Europeans became aware of a wider and deeper level of knowledge and perception of reality. Now, this is where it gets tricky. See, as they started gaining, as we started teaching, giving them knowledge, right? Not only were they growing in physical strength, they was growing in knowledge as well, because you got to remember the harshness in that cave life that they were living at one time. Then you put knowledge upon that, you got a force to reckon with. But we were saying, out of the good heart and nature of all humanity, knowledge is the right to grow, right? But the Germanic tribes, i.e. Europeans, or whatever you want, colonizers, white supremacists, or whatever, their ideology was, we're going to take what you gave us to build us up and use it against you to tear you down, so we can rule over you. It was a war strategy. It was a tactic, and hell, it worked. The universities of Andalusia were the best in Western Europe. That was still in its dark age. There were professors and departments of every known subject, from theology to mechanics. But what I want to tell you all was that when you go back and you see history and you see the achievements of Spain, or they say the achievements of Europe, they'll leave out the part that the Moors taught Europe, and that's how they had those achievements and that success. That part will be left out purposely, so you can look up to Europe, or you can look up to the white man, i.e., or that painting of white Jesus. You will always look up to them because in your psyche you think that they built high culture and high civilization. Okay, among these were astronomy, which also meant astrology. These had been developed far beyond the Babylonian and Greek stages as Arabs and Jews mapped the sky and plotted its rhythms, producing the most accurate astronomical tables of the time for the Christian king Alfonso, who had reconquered Toledo and made it his capital. Alfonso had at his court the finest of every creative and learned profession from all the religions. However, he favored the Moors and Jews to such a degree that his Christian courtiers, especially the clergy, were much concerned about the influence his infidel advisors exerted. By his mind, how you gonna call those who brought civilization and brought knowledge infidel because they didn't believe in Constantine's Christianity? Okay, well, it is what it is. The Jews were particularly influential because as they spoke fluent Arabic as well as Castilian and could understand the Moorish and Spanish mind, these intelligence was vital in a war situation in which Christians and Muslims were struggling over who should dominate the peninsula, right? So what the Jews are telling you is, hey, we saw an opportunity. Christians and Muslims fighting each other, but we understood both minds. Okay. The only people who could travel freely between both camps were the Jews. Wow. This made them important as diplomats, spies, and merchants to both sides who needed intelligence about their operations. The Jewish position of relative neutrality was useful until the Moors were finally driven out of Spain in the late 15th century, 1492. But also they kicked the Jews out as well. And some Jews went to Jerusalem. Some Jews went to, a lot of different places. But y'all bear with me. I got to check something out real quick. If I can find it, just hold on for a minute because I want to share this with you. Okay, here we go. Now, let's go back. This is from Joshua ben Israel. He commented and he said the Jews were expelled from Portugal to Guinea, Sao Tome, Saotome, and Angola. The penal colonies in 1492 and in 1493. The Pope sanctioned the transatlantic slave trade from Portuguese penal colonies. Man, appreciate that, Brother Joshua, son of Israel, Joshua ben Israel. But the true, man, we're going to get Brother on the show to finish this. And that's true. Also, the Moors went to Nigeria and called it Lagos, Nigeria, as you had the Lagos, Spain. So it's all coming together. It's all coming together. I just wanted to touch bases with that on you for a minute. Okay, while the Christian reconquest was going on over several centuries, the three spiritual communities produced a galaxy of remarkable people. One was Ibn Gabriel, a Jewish poet and philosopher who introduced Neapolitanism to Spain. Another was the Muslim mystic Ibn Arabi, who developed Sufi ideals and cosmology. An example of a Christian achievement was the philosopher Raymond Lully, who, like the other two, made an amalgam of all three traditions to produce his own version. All three were to have a major influence upon the development of the spiritual life of the West. So they were going to mix Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. But what was their form of Christianity that they were mixing in? That form was the form that the pagans brought to the table, mixed with, you got to remember, the first Christian was with the Coptics, the Gnostics, paganism mixed up in one. Then you had Judaism, the Torah, but then the Talmud came into play, right? Then you had Islam. Islam is credited in the Quran because there was no it was kept intact, and there were no adding to it to change the dichotomy of it, to change its original meaning and intent. The Bible has been charged with being tampered with when they started putting slave languages in there. Slave, turn the other cheek, and if it get cold, give your master your coat and all that. Then they say, okay, well, we have the Torah. Where did the Talmud come in? Okay, we have the Quran, but I want to go back, and we'll do a show on this, on the Zohar. I got to get in that Zohar, because I'm saying that the Zohar was brought by memory from, because it was written in Aramaic, from the Moors and brought to Spain as a teachings to give the Germanic barbarian tribes a guide to civilize themselves. But I'm just saying, I have to go do the research, but that's just my beliefs at this point, right? Meanwhile, the competition between religion and philosophy reached a critical point in the Middle Ages in all three faiths. Thomas Aquinas used the Jewish Spanish philosopher Maimonides' work as a basis for reconciliation between the two truths. Maimonides is Maimonides. We'll get to that later. Okay, work as a basis for reconciliation between the two truths. Pope or chief rabbi as a final authority was split as the young intelligentsia in particular were fascinated by the Greek logic. Pope or chief rabbi. So we're coming into a way of thinking now. Let's put it like that. They declared that faith in itself was not enough. It was at some point in the 13th century that the Jewish mystics decided to come out of their reclusive position to try and bring about a resolution to the problem. The only place such a solution could be found was in Spain, as the rabbis there had a philosophical background. The French and German Jews were learned, but not in the Greek method. Their approach was more symbolic than metaphysical. The Spanish Jews were familiar with both, and so it fell to them to present a convincing argument that no one could refute. The chief school to take the task on was in Journo and Catalonia. This produced a rational mystical system which came to be known as Kabbalah. Once its formulation had been published, it spread like wildfire throughout the Jewish community, much to the annoyance of those who believe esoteric matter should be kept secret. And that's the whole thing right there. That's the whole thing. That's where we are today. Some believe that certain knowledge should be secret and only for the elite. Some say no, man has an inherited right to knowledge because when the Father created man, he breathed knowledge and wisdom into man he taught man from the beginning, right? So that's the struggle of ideology, but you got to realize the Moors coming from that spiritual base, meaning their lineage is going all the way back to Kemet and Cush and Egypt and Nubia, right? All the way to Atlantis. That mindset always been into play. But you got a new mindset on the scene who wants their time to rule, and they're saying, well, we want to rule, and in order for us to rule for our 6,000 year rule that we agreed upon, then we have to hide the knowledge and only give it to the elite. Because how are we going to rule over everybody if we all know the same things? It's just not going to add up. And so that's Constantine did the same thing when he was bringing in his form of Christianity, and he brought his scholars in, but you had other scholars, and I forget the brother's name, but I'll find out. Because I did a show on it a while back. But he came and he said that, I'm paraphrasing, he said, how can you say Jesus is God when Jesus didn't create himself? He was created by the God. And they shot him down, and but they needed to do that, I guess, in order to cement their rule. Let's put it like that, right? Okay. Once its formulation had been published, it spread like wildfire throughout the Jewish community, much to the annoyance of those who believe esoteric matters should be kept secret. Out of this movement came a vast body of mystical literature. The flower of such an impulse was the Zohar, and I talked about that earlier, which was to influence many Christians who produced their own version of the Kabbalah. Okay, so we're gonna stop right here, right? Because we gotta. No, you know what? We're gonna go on. Because everybody producing, it's like disagreement. But I'm going to produce my own to fit my construct of ideology. I'm going to you wanna be the Catholics, then I'm gonna be a Protestant. I'm gonna protest your Catholicism, and we'll start our own thing. And we'll start over here. We'll start our own thing. And then you get so far off till you forget or you shun the original spark, which it all came from. Spain was the home of a unique period in history. It was host to a golden age in which tolerance and friendly interchange between the three religions of the West was possible for a brief while. Cordoba and then Toledo was the spiritual capitals of Europe. It was in Spain that the most intelligent and skillful of several generations met to bring about the rebirth of Europe. It was only when the fundamentalist elements of all three faiths tried to restore their religions to simplistic forms that the process was restrained and then destroyed. After 1492 and the expulsion of the Jews and later the Moors, two vital factors in the nation's life, Spain began to decline despite the illusion of great wealth and power bought by gold from the New World, meaning the gold that was bought back from when Queen Isabella sent Cristobal Colombo, or Christopher Columbus, when she sent him to the Americas, and he was raping the Mayans gold and the Aztec gold, and which they got from the old mixed gold. He raped all that and brought all that back to what they call Europe, but really it was Moorish Spain, because Spain developed it. Okay. Spain began to decline despite the illusion of great wealth and power bought by gold from the New World. Gone was the cultural interaction as the Inquisition made sure that Jewish and Moorish conversions, those who stayed and converted became good Catholics. Spain is today 500 years after 1492, just beginning to recognize her lost heritage. Again, great article, Zeb, son of Shimon Halevi, in breaking that history down. It's important because when you say Black Lives Matter, this history has to be in the conversation. This has to be in the history books. That's the whole purpose of why it's stated in the Bible that the truth shall make you free. Because you don't have to hold the bondage of guilt of trying to hold up a lie. Even though you know the truth, but you got to hold this lie up just to send off the perception to fit your narrative. So we're adults now. We're getting past that. But this was part 2 of Moors before Spain. Verpic Radio. We out.